Hello, thank you for checking out A1 Math, and today we're looking at the steps for solving a system of equations by multiplying first. Um, let's take a look. Now, in a previous video, we did system of equations by elimination, and when we did those, all of our problems had the same number. Either they had the same coefficient in front of the x or the y, and had the same sign where you had to subtract, or they was the same number in front of the coefficient, either the x or y, and they had different signs, and all you had to do was to add them, and they would eliminate. Here we're going to use that same method, but it's an additional process you have to go through first. So what I'm going to do is go through that step by step and show you how to do it. Okay, so here are the steps for doing that process. So step one, you want to decide which variable to eliminate. Step two, you want to multiply one or both equations by a constant so that the adding or subtracting the equations will eliminate the variable. And step three, then you go through the elimination method and go ahead and solve for the equation. All right, so let's take a look at an example. Okay, so here in these first two examples, what we're going to do, we're just going to multiply one equation. We only need to multiply one equation, and we'll get it to be one that we can now eliminate. So if you take a look here, you got to figure out, okay, how can I change either one of these equations to make them be so that I get the same coefficient on either the x or the y, okay? And here I could do either x or I could do y here. I could multiply the top equation by 9, and that'll make this y here 9 and be able to add. Or I can multiply the way I'm going to do by -3. So I'm going to work with the x, and I'm going to multiply by -3 all the way across the top equation. Once I do that, -3 times -4 is going to give me a positive 12x, which is going to eliminate. And the reason I chose that instead of the 9 is because I didn't want my numbers to be too big. I want to keep my numbers as small as possible. All right, so let's do that. So I'm going to multiply and bring the whole thing over here. So negative times a negative is a positive. 3 times 4 is 12. So I had 12x. And then negative times a negative is a positive. 3 times 1 is 1. I'm 3. So I get 3y. And then negative times a positive is a negative. And 3 times 18 is 54. Now here I'm just going to rewrite this equation here. All right. Now, once I do that, I can go ahead and go through my process of just eliminating from there. So I just have to add in each column and get my answer here. So the 12x minus 12x is going to be 0, which is what I wanted. And then the 3y plus 9y is going to give me 12y. And negative 54 minus negative 8, well, plus negative 18 is negative 72. Now I'm just going to divide by 12. The y is equal to -6. All right. Now, next we're going to take this -6 and plug it into either equation. I'm going to plug it into the first one. And make sure you always plug it into your original equation. So I'm going to take -4x minus a -6. And it's important to use parentheses so you make sure you don't mess up any of your signs. And now I got negative times a negative, which is a positive. I got negative 4x plus 6 is equal to 18. Now I'm just going to solve for x here, subtract 6 on both sides. And then divide by negative 4. And x is equal to negative 3. So now I have my solution. X is negative 3 and y is negative 6. All right, go ahead and take a look at number 2 here and see if you can solve this one. All right, so there's multiple ways of doing it. You could multiply the bottom equation here by negative 9 so that the x's canceled out. But again, I want to keep my numbers small, so I'm going to multiply by 5. That 5 times 2 is going to get me a positive 10, which will cancel out. So once I do that, I have 9x minus 10y is equal to negative 12. Same equation. And then I have 5 times x, which is 5x. 5 times 2, which is 10, give me 10y, positive. And 5 times 20, which is 100, so that'll be negative 100. Okay, now I'm going to go ahead and add and let my y's cancel out. That'll get me 0. And I got 9x plus 5x, and that's going to get me 14x is equal to negative 112. Okay, now I'm going to divide the 14 on both sides, and then that gives me x is equal to negative 8. So now I'm going to plug the negative 8 into my equation over here, and I'm just going to pick this first one here. So that's going to be negative 8 plus 2y is equal to negative 20. And notice how I used uh, everything before I multiplied by 5 there. All right, now I'm going to add 8 on both sides. And then 2y is equal to negative 12. Then divide by 2. And y is equal to negative 6. So my point is going to be negative 8, negative 6. Okay, now we're going to take a look at a um, problem where you need to multiply both. Okay, so there's no way of just multiplying one equation here and making it come out right. I can't multiply this 2 by a number and get 7. I can't multiply this 6 by a number and get 10. So what I need to do is multiply both. I need to have the lowest common multiple, okay? So I can find the lowest common multiple between 2 and 7, or the lowest common multiple between 6 and 10. So I decided to go with 2 and 7. So if I try to find the lowest common multiple, I can say, all right, cool. What's the multiples of 2? And you don't have to write this out if you can figure it out right away. But just in case you can't, you just say 2, 4, 6, 8, and just keep going. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16. And just go for a little ways. And then do 7. 7, right away, 14. So I've got a match here at 14 and 14. So I had to multiply the 2 times 7 to get 14, and multiply the 7 times 2 to get 14. Get this out the way. All right, so that's exactly what I'm going to do. I'm going to go ahead and multiply this top equation by 7, and multiply this bottom equation by 2. Now, it's also important to make sure your signs is right. Since this is already negative, and this is positive already, I know I don't have to change the signs on any one of these. So I just go multiply across. So now I have 7 times negative 2, and 7 times negative 6, and 7 times negative 16. And that's going to give me negative 14 x minus 42 is equal to negative 112. Now I'm going to do the bottom equation, and I'll end up with 14x plus 20 is equal to negative 20. And now I'm just going to add my equations here and eliminate the x here. So when I do that, this becomes 0. Negative 42 plus 20 becomes negative 22y is equal to negative 132. Then I'm going to divide by negative 22. And then y is equal to positive 6. All right. Now, I have the y. What I'm going to do now is take the y and plug it in. So I get, and I'm happy. You can pick either equation. Just make sure you pick the original. And I'm going to pick the top equation here. So I got negative 2 times x minus 6 times 6, because I'm replacing the y here, is equal to negative 16. So now I got negative times a positive, which is negative, 6 times 6, which is 36. So I'm going to bring down the negative 2x. Now to solve for x, I am going to add, oh, this should be negative. So I'm going to add 36 on both sides. So now you got negative 2x is equal to positive 20. And then just divide by negative 2. That means x is equal to negative 10. All right, now I'm plugging in my negative 10 for my x. and 6 for my y, and there we go. Okay, now go ahead and take a look at this one and see if you can get the correct answer. All right, so let's take a look at this one. All right, I decided to go with the 8 and the 10. If you decide to go with the -6 and the 4, that's fine too. But I decided to make the 8 and the 10 come out right. So I went ahead and multiplied um, the top equation by 4 so I can get 40 and multiply for the 10 here and multiplied the bottom equation by 5. All right, once I do that, I get -40x minus 24 y is equal to 0. And then I take the 5 and multiply that, and I get positive 40x plus 20y is equal to 0. And I'm just go ahead and eliminate the 40x, and -24 plus 20y is -4y, and all of that is equal to 0. Okay, now I'm going to divide by -4, and y is equal to 0. Right? And with y being equal 0, that's going to be pretty easy to work with. So I'm going to go ahead and plug that in. And I decided to plug it into this bottom equation here. So I have 8x plus 4 times y, which is 0, is equal to 0. All right, 0 times 4 is going to be 0, so that leaves 8x is equal to 0. And then divide by 8, and x is equal to 0. So our point is going to be 0, comma 0. Okay, now that is using the elimination method to solve a system of equations by multiplying first. I want to thank you for checking out A1 Math. Have a nice day.